An Orange County judge charged with shooting and killing his wife is back behind bars after having his bail revoked.
The judge is on the other side of the law as he goes on trial for his wife's murder.
An accused murderer wipes a tear as he stands trial for killing his wife.
Opening statements are underway in the trial of Superior Court Judge Jeffrey Ferguson.
He's the judge accused of shooting his wife to death.
Jeffrey Malcolm Ferguson is accused of violating the terms of his release last year on $1 million bond.
In the world of justice, judges are seen as the ultimate arbiters of truth. They are the ones who ensure fairness, who weigh evidence, who decide the fate of those accused of crimes. Their decisions can change lives. But what happens when one of those judges stands accused of a crime so unthinkable that it sends shockwaves through the very system they once upheld? This is the story of Judge Jeffrey Ferguson, a respected California judge, a man trusted to uphold the law, who suddenly found himself at the center of a murder trial. His wife, Cheryl Ferguson, was shot and killed inside their home. And the question that would divide a courtroom, a jury, and the public was this: was it an accident, or was it murder? It's a case filled with contradictions, a seemingly loving marriage that ended in tragedy, a judge with an impeccable record now facing the very system he once commanded, a jury that could not agree, leading to a mistrial that left justice hanging in the balance. This is more than just a murder trial. It's a case that raises deep questions about justice, accountability, and the human flaws that can exist behind even the most powerful figures in our legal system. Who is Judge Jeffrey Ferguson? To understand this case, we first need to understand the man at the center of it. Jeffrey Ferguson wasn't just any judge. He was a highly respected figure in Orange County's legal system, with decades of experience as both a prosecutor and a superior court judge. Known for his intellect and his deep understanding of the law, he had a reputation as a fair, meticulous, and even-keeled judge. He had presided over countless criminal cases, deciding the fates of others with careful deliberation. His decisions shaped lives, determined sentences, and helped uphold the very laws that he now found himself accused of breaking. In his personal life, Jeffrey Ferguson was known as a dedicated family man. He had been married to Cheryl Ferguson for many years, and together they raised a son, Philip. Their life seemed picture perfect. They lived in Anaheim Hills, a wealthy and quiet community. They had plans for the future, even purchasing a home in Texas near their son's college, a place where they intended to retire one day. But beneath the surface, there were problems. The Fergusons had a history of arguments. Nothing unusual for a long-term marriage, but enough that friends and colleagues had noticed. Tensions were growing. And on one fateful night in August 2023, everything reached a breaking point. The night of the shooting. August 3rd, 2023, started like any other day. That evening, Jeffrey and Cheryl went out to dinner. But during the meal, something happened. An argument. It wasn't the first time they had argued, but this one was different. It didn't end at the restaurant. When they returned home, the tension only escalated. And then, at some point that night, a gun was fired. A single bullet struck Cheryl Ferguson. Neighbors reported hearing shouting, but no one could have predicted what happened next. Jeffrey Ferguson made no attempt to flee. He didn't try to hide what had happened. Instead, he sent a text message. A text that would become one of the most damning pieces of evidence against him. The message was sent to his court clerk and bailiff, and it read, "I just lost it. I just shot my wife. I won't be in tomorrow. I will be in custody. I'm so sorry." A confession? Or a message written in a state of shock? When police arrived at the Ferguson home, they found Cheryl dead. Inside the house, authorities discovered over 40 firearms. Jeffrey Ferguson was immediately taken into custody. He was charged with murder. And that's when the legal battle began. The case against Jeffrey Ferguson. From the moment the trial started, it was clear that this would not be a simple case. The prosecution argued that this was a crime of passion, an act of violence in the heat of the moment. They didn't claim that Ferguson had planned to kill his wife in advance, but they did argue that he made the conscious choice to pull the trigger. They pointed to his experience with firearms. This wasn't a man unfamiliar with guns. He owned more than 40 of them. Someone with that level of experience, they argued, wouldn't have simply accidentally fired a weapon. They also pointed to his immediate text message as evidence of guilt. If the shooting had been an accident, why would his first reaction be to say, "I just lost it"? The prosecution didn't need to prove premeditation. They only needed to prove that Ferguson had intentionally shot his wife in a moment of rage. To them, this was a clear case of second-degree murder. The defense's counter-argument, but the defense had a very different story to tell. They argued that this was never murder at all, that this was a tragic accident, nothing more. Yes, Ferguson had been drinking that night, but he was not in a state of rage or malice. Instead, they claimed he was handling his gun when it accidentally discharged. They pointed to a pre-existing shoulder injury that, they argued, made his movements less controlled. The gun went off unintentionally, they said. And that text message? The defense argued that it was written in panic, in a state of complete shock. There was no history of domestic violence. There was no evidence of a long-term plan to harm Cheryl. Ferguson wasn't a violent man, they said. He was simply a man who had made a tragic mistake. The jury's impossible decision. The jury listened to both sides, weighing every piece of evidence, every argument. For 8 long days, they deliberated. And then came the announcement. They were deadlocked. 11 jurors were convinced Ferguson was guilty, but 1 juror refused to convict. A single holdout was enough to bring the trial to a halt. With no unanimous verdict, the judge declared a mistrial. For now, Jeffrey Ferguson walked free, but the case was far from over. The aftermath and the bigger questions. The mistrial left the legal community divided. Some saw it as a failure of justice, an obvious case of guilt that had been derailed by a single juror. Others saw it as a sign of reasonable doubt. But the biggest question was, what happens next? The prosecution immediately announced that they would retry the case, and that meant Jeffrey Ferguson would once again have to face a jury, face the possibility of conviction, and face the reality that his future was still uncertain. Beyond the courtroom. The broader impact. The Ferguson case isn't just about one man and one crime. It raises larger questions about justice and accountability. What happens when a judge, a person who has spent their life enforcing the law, ends up on the other side of the system? Does Ferguson's position influence how people see this case? And what does it say about domestic disputes, gun ownership, and the unpredictability of human behavior? The jury may have been divided, but public opinion is even more so. Some see Ferguson as a man who simply made a terrible mistake. Others see him as someone who used his power and status to escape justice. What comes next? A new trial is coming. A new jury will be selected. And once again the question will be asked, was this a tragic accident, or was it murder? Will Ferguson be convicted? Or will he walk free once again? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The world will be watching. The story of Judge Jeffrey Ferguson is still unfolding, and the search for justice remains unresolved. With a retrial on the horizon, new arguments, new evidence, and a new jury will determine his fate. But will the outcome be any different? This case raises important questions about justice, accountability, and the complexities of human nature. Was this a tragic accident, or was it something far more sinister? The debate continues, and only time will reveal the final verdict. What do you think? Should Ferguson be held accountable, or is there enough doubt to question his guilt? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the world's most gripping legal cases. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.